America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Robbins.
Here.
Commissioner Rushton.
Present.
Commissioner Bailey. Present. Chairman Wessel.
Here.
Commissioner Sorsville. Here. Commissioner Allgaier. Here. Commissioner Lautner. Present. All present.
Thank you. We have just to make 10 minutes tonight.
Yes.
And I have a correction. Oh, not those. Oh, not the May 10th. Oh, I'm sorry. I have no correction on this. Sorry.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I recommend approval of a special session of Tuesday, May 10, 2022.
All those in support?
Aye.
Thank you. Now we're at the point where we approve the agenda or add or delete items to the agenda. 3 late additions listed at the bottom under 16, 17, and 18. And 2 resolutions that were moved down from the top of the agenda to the item number 11 and 12 under action items, so that we can do a roll call vote. Any action required besides approval?
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
All those in support?
Aye.
Thank you. At this point, we're at public comment session. We invite members of the public to come forward to talk to us. We have 5 minutes. The administrator will keep the timer. We will be respectful to you, and we ask that you direct your comments to the entire board and be respectful of the commissioner. Thank you very much. Anybody want to be recognized? Yes, please come forward.
Hi, I'm Bill Wiesner, Elmwood Township, Leelanau County. And again, for the 6th time now, I'm asking that we replace the Dominion voting machines with paper ballots that are local, secure, and easily auditable. And this paper has just 2 little, actually it's a transcription, automatic one. So it's not totally accurate, but it's very close, I think, quite close. And these are excerpts. You see the 3 dots where I've skipped material. You can click on the links when I email it out to hear the whole thing if you want. But the first one, he's talking about the problems with not being secure. This is Kurt Olson, an election attorney, lawyer. And on the back is Alan Dershowitz. And he's talking about if Dominion voting systems or ENS or HART or whoever, if they're acting like the government, then they should be as open as the government has to be, and they shouldn't be able to keep their machines closed. They should be able to open them up, and if it's a trusted build, then show us, prove it to us. It's a black box. We're not sure about this. You should lay it all out so everyone's feeling comfortable with it. So back to the first page, Kurt Olson, just read through the highlighted stuff a little bit. Some of the things related to the injunctions related to stopping the electronic voting. They're doing this in Arizona, then they're going to take it to other states. That is a complaint to prohibit the use of electronic voting machines. Reading the highlighted part, the standard for a preliminary injunction or granting it is 1, to show irreparable harm while it's an election. 2, a likelihood of success of the merits. There's lots of evidence for that. In fact, the 2000 Mules movie should be required watching for every clerk in Leelanau County. Again, just to state, I think they followed their protocols very much to the letter, but I think things happen anyway in those black boxes. The third item is that the public interest is at stake, and it certainly is with the election. So he just goes on and mentions, Professor Halderman from U of M, he did a long report. He was one of so many, and actually mostly Democrats, from 2016 to 2000, were very concerned. You know, there's like tens of them. I mean, 20, 30, I don't know exactly how many, but they were complaining, these machines, we can't trust them. Also, France used to be one of the first people with voting machines, but they've backed down. They've got almost 70 million people voting, you know, so going on to the second part. So I have a little time for Alan Dershowitz. Just read what he says. You have to understand, I'm a liberal Democrat. I voted for Joe Biden. I'm happy with the results of the election. This is not about partisan politics. This is about whether or not our votes are being properly counted for the future. And it's also about whether or not you have a private company performing a government function. They have to be as transparent as the government is if the government were doing the counting. Obviously, the people would have a right to know exactly what methodologies, et cetera. So he makes that point 3 or 4 times, just that if the government is given the responsibility to hold proper elections. And they've given that over to these voting type machines, the black box. One of them I read has 4 million lines of code in it. So how would we expect a clerk or anybody to know what goes on in there? And with the Dominion one, Eric Coomer was part of it. He did the where you adjudicate or something like adjudicate. If they're not sure of what it means, he can change that. But anyway, there's I'm going to tidy this up, but also in the back on the top left column, he mentions Google Clint Curtis rigged elections. This was a representative from Florida, a Republican, who wanted the election fixed in 2010. And the guy told him, I can do it a 51%, 49% split every time. And I believe the guy hired him. He doesn't know, I'm not sure what became of it, but please consider these things. Thank you very much.
Any other public comment? Yes.
Charles Knapp, Cleveland Township. Okay, actually, I just want to ask the board, favor of the entire board. When you're speaking, I realize you're discussing items on the agenda, and sometimes you talk to each other and you don't talk directly into the mics, and we have a hard time hearing you. So would you please make the effort to talk into the mic so we can hear you? That's request number 1. Request number 2 is a little more serious. When we get down to action item number 14, I was here last Tuesday for the discussion of that. That was so long and so boring, you could have put people to sleep on a roller coaster with it. I hope you got it settled by tonight. We'll be here till next month, till midnight. So I hope we get that settled. And what was the third item I wanted to ask about? Oh, I guess that'll come under the sheriff's office. We're going to take in inmates from the Kalkaska County Jail. I'd like it made clear during the general commission meeting whether or not those inmates can be permanently housed here or somehow run back and forth. So Kalkaska has some business at their jail if they have any jail officers left. But that's a minor thing. The two big things that we'd like to be able to hear what you're saying when you discuss items in number 2. Please don't take so long on action item 14. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Karen Josephus, Bingham Township, and Chair of the Leelanau County Republican Party. I'm here tonight. I usually work on Tuesday night, so I can't be here. In fact, I'm going to duck into a conference room to do my job because I really thought it was important to be here because my phone has been ringing off the wall. And I hope that it means nothing, but it seems there's some kind of an investigation with the clerk. And we're shocked and saddened and disappointed to hear this news because we've always supported the clerk and appreciate the hard work she's done. We hope this leads to nowhere, but time will tell. I'm disappointed to not see anything on the agenda about it. I think this is kind of important if this is going on. Also, on another phone call today, I'm told that someone on the Board of Commissioners will move to bring the HR and the Human Resources and Finance Department back into the clerk's office. If that's true, that would be very disappointing because I think it would be very dangerous to do it at this point for 3 reasons. Firstly, the decision has been made, discussed in depth, and voted on. Secondly, given the recent turn of events that the clerk may be investigated, to make that type of a move would be really foolish. While an investigation needs to play out, it's irrational to think that the reversing of the shift of the HR and the finance departments would only make this community doubt the rationality of this board. And I think that we're all better than that. Thirdly, up to now, I've been silent on the issue of shifting the HR department and the finance department from the clerk's office. I have been in Florida for the winter. It has never made sense to me as to why one of the busiest departments in the county has more work than it needs. It only makes sense that these departments stand alone from the clerk's office and to report to the administrator. In a prior life, I worked for Oakland County for 5 years. I interface with most Oakland County municipalities as a data processor. I put computers into the police cars, the first ones, into the sheriff's cars. And then I worked for 7 years at the city of Farmington Hills, and I was part of the team to start Scantron and automated elections. Good organizational structure has always had the finance department and the HR department reporting to the city's manager's office or the administrator. In fact, I've always questioned why our administrator did not change that when he took this position. Having the HR department and the finance department report to the administrator is simply good municipal management with a separation of duties that keeps one person from having too much control. I've been very disappointed that the Board of Commissioners has let this issue become political and personal. It is not political, neither is it personal, as many of, I feel, the Democrat commissioners have tried to assert. We're going to be watching this very closely. We want to support good management, of course, and we want to celebrate good work done. But if there are issues to be attended to, that certainly has to be done. And we're going to be watching because we want to make sure that common sense reigns with the Leelanau County Commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any comments?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is John Fletcher, Lake Leelanau. Some weeks ago, the Commissioners in concert passed a resolution involving auto insurance healthcare reform. I applaud you for that. Tonight, with respect to Ty Wessel, the chair, his call for civility and respect, I'm asking that you consider and hopefully approve a resolution with regard to the tribe, the band, one, for the contributions that they've made, and secondly, land acknowledgement. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Thank you. Any commissioner comment? Yes.
Yes, well, I appreciate Karen Josephus's comments. I did find it interesting that the head of the Republican Party found that it makes good common sense to spend over $250,000 a year every year going forward to pull 2 functions out of the clerk's office and set them up as individual positions. So it's a little bit of a reverse from the conservative fiscal position that I usually hear from most Republicans. But I thank you for your comments, and we'll certainly listen to them and take them to heart.
Any other commissioner comments? Thank you. We now move down to our consent agenda. Are there any communications, proclamations, or presentations? That brings us to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is an effort where we put routine business that we talked about before with unanimous agreement on. We leave it in the consent agenda. Any commissioner may ask that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed under an action item. So is there anybody here that would like to move the items on the consent agenda down? Is there a motion to support the consent agenda? Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That takes us down to action item number 11. It's the 13th Circuit Court approval of resolution number 2022 for the MDOC grant.
The community corrections grant, I think you're referring to.
Yes, I am.
Yes,
Yes,
Mr. Chairman.
yes.
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve County Resolution 2022 to be determined 13th Circuit Court Community Corrections fiscal year 2023 grant application for submission to the Michigan Department of Corrections as presented.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in support of the motion?
Roll call.
Roll call, yes, please. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Rushton,
Yes.
Commissioner Sarswell,
Yes.
Commissioner Wessel,
Yes.
Commissioner Allgaier,
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey. Yes. Commissioner Loudon,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
7-0.
Next item on the agenda is approval of the Umena Village Preservation Resolution that we reviewed last week to celebrate their 40th anniversary. Is there a motion?
I would recommend to the Board of Commissioners. Am I recommending, I would move to record. I'm gonna be too recommend.
I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Did you get that message? Move to approve Leelanau County Resolution 2022 to be determined, proclaiming and recognizing and congratulating the Umena Village Presentation Association on its 25th anniversary. The resolution for that.
Support.
Any
A
discussion?
little wordy, but sorry.
All those in support will know we're going to have a roll call vote on this as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Rushton,
Yes.
Commissioner Sarswell,
Yes.
Chairman Wessel,
Yes.
Commissioner Allgaier,
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
Commissioner Loudon,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you. The Umena Village folks will be pleased by that. We now have an item on our agenda that we moved here from Tuesday night, the Housing North Housing Ready Program Agreement. Does anybody have any action or?
If you'd like to give an update here, because last month you asked to see a draft of the potential agreement, what's our attorney drafted, and I passed it out last week in board package. I believe at that time we're waiting for Ms. Brown's attorney to respond back. And
We responded back and accepted. all.
yeah, and you accepted it, so it's fine. And then you received an email from Mrs. Gala on Friday with some recommended suggestions on funding, because you have not allocated any funds of any kind to this project. So if you allocate funds, we have agreement, but unless you allocate funds, there's no reason to have an agreement, so that's.
And I would like to enter a motion, please. I would move that we enter into a housing ready program agreement between Leelanau County and Housing North for a 3-year period with a cost not to exceed $60,000 over 3 years. Funds to come from Fund 275, line items 001-002 and 001-003.
Any discussion?
So just for clarification, if I may, these funds are coming out in Pretty Gala's housing ready program and not the. ARPA
Yes,
funds.
yeah, the email Trudy gave the specific line item in the company, so yes, this is not ARPA fund.
Okay.
This is the fund, well, she explained it here, I think a month ago.
So to be clear on this does not put any housing up. Correct?
That's correct. Doesn't actually build any houses, but.
Doesn't build
in
any
our-
houses,
in
so
our-
I have the floor. Does not build any houses in our community. In fact, what this does is pays for a person's wages. And there has really been very little discussion about this with Trudy. So personally, I don't know that this fills the need in the county. Housing has been discussed year after year after year after year to no avail. And all we're doing is taking $60,000 and paying somebody's wages. We are not putting up housing. I will not vote on this today.
Can I respond? So a year ago in May, the Housing Action Committee realized that we had come as far as we could on this process as a group of volunteers and suggested that we needed a housing director following the model that Housing North had set up in Charlevoix County. And this would be the funds to supply that staff person. Yarrow Brown from Housing North has been out actively fundraising to support that position. And it would be very difficult to approach other organizations asking for funds if Leelanau County was not part of that group of funders. So that's what we're doing is offering some support from the county on a problem that covers the entire county. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Lautner?
Yes, thank you. I also am going to oppose this, this program, because I agree with Commissioner Rushton. This does not put houses on the ground. We have a great relationship with Habitat for Humanity. We're getting houses on the ground. This is going to just fund another person, another salary. And I feel it to be something of a make-work project. Instead of actually solving the problems that we have. We also have other organizations such as Freedom Builders that are actually doing some great projects for the needs of the community. This is the beginning of I'm just afraid, a large bureaucracy. And I don't think it's going to serve the community. We can do better than this.
I will support this because I believe Housing North is filling a vital role. Housing is complicated. Funding is immensely complicated. We need help with that in order to get more houses on the ground. So I'm glad to be part of a coalition that will be working to increase affordable housing in our county. And we're getting off very, very cheaply. So thank you for work. I will be supporting this.
Any other comments? Yes, Tricia.
I too will be supporting this. Oops, too close. We have some excellent nonprofit organizations, Home Stretch, and to name one, who's working on this county, and we have a couple of others that are very, very active, have done excellent work. However, we need someone who can work with the contractors, nonprofit and profit, for-profit, and we need someone who can work with the various townships. We have 11 townships, 3 villages, and different sets of regulations and ordinances and all of that. And when you have a builder come in and trying to negotiate all of that and work with builders and work with the county and all of the other entities, it is an overwhelming task oftentimes, particularly for private, for-profit builders who we need to have in this county doing some work for nonprofit housing as well. So I think this is a good investment. It's not a large amount of money, and I think we're going to reap the benefits of seeing more housing possible in areas that perhaps were a little bit closed to that before. So I thank you for bringing it to us, and definitely going to support it.
Anybody else? I was a part of the discussion in Northport last Friday, where Housing North and Yarrow Brown were there meeting with township and village officials, helping us look at, consider some zoning issues. We need this expertise. I'm going to support this motion. All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-2. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the Finance and Audit Committee updated recommendations.
Let me walk you through it, and Mr. Knapp promised to buy me breakfast at Tech, it's less than 10 minutes, is that a deal? Mr. Knapp? Okay.
10 minutes would be great.
Okay, so you all heard Mr. Stoker's presentation at least once, some of you heard it 3 times, so I think we know the issue, so let's try to, I'll try to walk through this simple, before the meeting, you were passed out a revised non-union sheet, and also some suggested motions, as well as a salary agreement with the undersheriff and with Ms. Middleton, who was our temporary chief deputy clerk. So let's start with the elected officials. So if we look at the revised 2022 non-union wage scale, you see at the middle there, all of the elected officials have one salary. We eliminate the start, year 1, year 2, year 3, so forth. So we eliminate that with the exception of registered deeds. All of those individuals are at the top of the pay scale. Any questions about that so far? We're all together? Okay, so we are recommending, and I suggest that you, well, we can do it on the sheriff separately. So you have a suggested motion in front of you about the elected officials and elimination of the steps and to approve the pay scale.
Mr. Lautner.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the proposed non-union wage scale dated May 17, 2022 for elected officials and steps to be eliminated immediately.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just want to be sure I'm fully understanding what we're voting on. So this is the elected official and the deputy positions as well.
No, we're gonna go next. I'm just talking about the elected official. The motion just covers the elected officials.
So we're speaking.
And it does, just to be open, it does cover the registered deeds on what the recommendation was at the
So
meeting.
the prosecutor, the sheriff, clerk,
Treasurer,
treasurer.
Register
register of
deeds.
And the purpose is to take the top of the pay scale and eliminate the steps.
all of them are at the current top of the pay scale.
So we're eliminating any steps underneath.
So if any of those individuals would leave between now and December 31st, 2024, whoever would come in to those positions is entitled to this exact same pay scale. So the only one that was debatable was the register of deeds. I don't want to go into details, but she is not at the top. The committee recommended that she be placed at 72,410. You have that option. Her top would have been on the 4-year old scale. I gotta find it here. I don't have any cheater glasses. I apologize, here it is.
75,701.
Thank you. Thank you. But the recommendation was the 72,410.
Yes.
You know, she was being very kind in saying she would agree to that. I really don't understand the rationale for keeping her lower than the other elected officials.
Commissioner Levin?
Okay, this move, the previous was a step scale. So this moves her up one step. If I remember right, next year would be one more step for there. Next year you would be at the top.
Well, that's right, because we didn't put the steps in here. So if you want to do that with her, you can keep the steps. But that's not what the committee,
Oh, say, so next year we
So
should.
if you wish to-
automatically- We ought to in the budget process.
now you can
Next.
every year,
Yeah.
you cannot decrease, you can increase it. So if you pass this, you can modify it during the budget process to put her at year 3.
Next, during the budget process. Okay, makes sense.
And I just talked with Mr. Stolker to make sure we're perfectly legal on this, which you don't want to do. And if, for example, not that she would, but she did resign, you would, if you put the steps in there, then you're forced with those steps. If you do it as straight salary,
Makes
you have the option next year, out of fairness, if you wish, and the year after that, to put her at the top. Or you can put her at top right now. It's strictly up to the 7 of you. There are no legal issues. It's up to the 7 of you to decide how you want to handle it.
I'm going to allow the Register of Deeds to comment.
I did understand that I would be on a step scale for the next 3 years until I got to the top as well. I haven't seen that schedule yet. That you're looking at, I haven't seen.
The schedule is with the committee recommended of 72,410. And then the board has the option, when they do the budget for next year, for 2023, to put you at year 3, and the year after that, and year 4.
Should that not stay on that scale though, to continue to be on the steps?
The challenge would be if she would leave, the next person would be entitled to those steps. You can do that. You're not, legally, you don't have to do that. though.
And I think, yes, Commissioner.
Well,
Levin.
actually, I'm interested in what, well, out of committee, we thought we were going to leave the steps in place to ensure that we have the
And you
processes
could.
followed through. I don't have steps. I didn't bring this sheet with the.
I
actual
have
steps.
it. So it was in your packet last week, and like I said, so I know it's on there. Okay, register of deeds. Currently, she's at, and help me out if I'm incorrect here. We're at 70,797.
That's correct.
Okay, the recommendation is put it at $72,410. The next step, year 3 would be 74,022. The 4-year would be 75,701. So you have 3 options. One, adopt this just at the 70, whatever's recommended here. And you can make adjustments during the cycle every year, the budget process. You can put her on step 3 or 4 right now if you wish, or you can put the steps in there. We would have to modify this and put the steps back in there. However, that would guarantee if she did leave, the next person would get those steps also.
In our suggested motions, this was the second suggested motion on our sheet. We handled the other ones, and then we handled this. So I would suggest that we take the motion on the floor, except we don't include the Register of Deeds and take that separately as suggested from the Finance Committee. If that's okay by the person who made the motion. Yes, Mr. Usher.
I just would like to clarify why the Register of Deeds is not being paid the same as the other departments.
I can explain that because when Mrs. Miller retired, she was at the top of the pay scale, and traditionally, and the peers that we weren't doing it accurately, new elected officials would come in and start at the start date.
Correct.
So
And
that's-
because she was newly elected to that position,
And in 2020, you approved the scale. That's-
right? So technically speaking, what we are doing, or where the wage was set initially was legal,
Because it was at the beginning of the year.
correct?
If
Because it
Mrs.
was the beginning of her term.
If
her first
Mrs.
term.
Miller would have hired on January 7th, whoever came in would have to be entitled to her salary.
her salary.
But because it's the beginning of the year, and a new
Correct.
4-year term. So yes, you are correct.
So, but in order to have this consistency in departments, that's the reason for the discussion about the increases after, in year what? 3, right?
This is your
This is her second
year.
year, so she would get an increase this year, she would get an increase next year, and then her wage would be comparable to those in the other departments. And another note is, at the beginning of each elected term, the board has the option to either increase that wage or decrease that wage. Doesn't matter who's in the position, it has nothing to do with skill sets. We as a board can set that wage up or down.
Well, all 3 options are perfectly legal, so it's deep clarification.
We have the motion on the floor that we may want to,
Okay,
okay, Commissioner Lautner.
if I amend my motion, I would amend my motion to say with the to approve the wage scale as presented, to approve the wage scale, but with the step system in place as discussed in finance committee. That makes sense.
Just to clarify, then you would have in 2023 and 2024, there'd be steps for the register of deeds. She'd be the only elected official with steps.
Therein lies the problem, yes. However, as Commissioner Rushton says, it's going to be up to the Board of Commissioners anyway. Will they lower the other ones back down?
In 2024, not
Mhm.
two.
Yes, we don't know where those are going to be set.
Tricia.
Well, I'm looking at these, if we're trying to set them all the same, prosecutor's salary,
Patricia, we do not have a second on the amendment yet.
oh, I'm so sorry.
Were you seconding it?
No.
Is there a second?
Second.
No,
So
Patricia.
sorry. I'm just looking at them, if the goal is to make them all the same, they're not. The sheriff's salary is 10,000 more. The prosecutor's salary is 30,000 more, not quite. They're not the same. The only thing that does is put 2 salaries, which is the clerk and the treasurer at the same level.
I think the comments keep them the same as they are currently. Those people are getting paid these salaries now. The only one that is impacted by this is the register of deeds.
So if we were to look at salaries and this whole issue later on, there'd be nothing to stop us from raising the salaries. I understand we cannot decrease.
There's
but we
nothing,
could increase.
Until a real election.
Any commissioner comments, questions? Commissioner Rushton.
Here's my question. If we set this wage at 72,410 and include, I believe you've included with your motions steps for the next 2 years.
Correct.
So is that not salary at that point? Is that an hourly wage?
no,
or
that's a salary.
It is salary, okay,
No. Like I said, if you wish to do that, it's perfectly legal.
okay.
I was just asking Jen in terms of the step and not being totally familiar that, but what Commissioner Lautner was proposing may have been, Mr. Chairman, if I may, just ask Jen to share what you just told me that I asked you.
So at the committee is what we talked about is that you would put Jen, or excuse me, you would put the register of deeds position at this salary. And then what happens is during your budget, you would either increase, if you decided to do 3.25 plus the step, you could then choose the salary to increase more than what you're setting today. You can always go up. So we talked about at budget time, you would look at those steps and decide then in August, after you study everybody else, what the parameters of these salaries would look like. So that's why this is presented to you today at this flat, or this salary line without steps per the attorney.
Okay, yes, I remember that discussion, but this raises her up for this year at budget.
You set the schedule again.
We would set the schedule again. No, I had understood that she would go up then to the next step at budget
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And that's already, so that is in the step, we would have that step to go on. We could actually raise it more at that time. We could go
Right, your
with-
finance department would keep that
The,
step
yeah.
cycle.
The question is that nothing gets ran. If she left, if you put the steps in there, then you have to give it to whoever replaced it. And that's why, from a simply clean perspective, what Jen said and what our attorney says, set a salary, and then during the budget, give her the step increase, plus whatever percentage of raise that you give everybody else. That'd be simply the cleanest way to do it.
And because this impacts our registered deed, and we allow her to speak one more time.
Thank you. Just a reminder that when I was elected, this is the scale that was in place, and I can make up to that amount. So I feel like if I put at the 782, I'm not, and it needs to be looked at every year. I feel like I still have the opportunity, and there's still a discrepancy there because this was adopted when I was elected. That there's really not an option that you still have to do the steps.
There's ethical versus illegal difference here.
Yes, Mr. Bell.
No.
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. And I get what Mrs. Grimes is saying, because she was elected into this position with the understanding that it would work its way up to 75. If we don't put the steps in place, there's no guarantee that she would continue to move up to get there as was understood when she did run the position. Is that? So I guess that's what
That's accurate.
by making the amendment to the motion, that's all I'm looking to do is ensure that at budget time, that she goes up the next step as was expected. So I don't know how else to word that except for the amendment.
Do you have the
So,
amendment?
I know what she wants
Yeah.
to say, but it's not what she said.
what does my amendment need to say?
When you were at committee, if you look at the old scale that the Register of Deeds is referencing, and the position is currently paying at the 1-year mark of 77.97.53. On your pay scale, you're moving it up to 72.410. Then what you would do at budget time in 23, if you're following traditionally what you've done, based on that, at a
For the
minimum of
2023 budget,
yeah, for the
Not
budget,
right
at
now.
2022 budget for 2023, you would be looking at the 74.022.44, but historically, you have adjusted them, which would be anticipated for next year at 3.25. So the 74.022.44 would actually be increased by 3.25, which would increase the 75.701 for 2024, where she would go, and when she hit the beginning of that year, then she would be at the same rate as the clerk and treasurer, because those would all be adjusted accordingly.
so my amendment did not take into account the 3.35.
Well,
You can do it.
There's no guarantee.
I
You
know.
haven't voted.
So I don't know how else to.
But
No.
you just didn't say the Register of Deeds when you were talking.
I think
about
what we
steps.
simply do is take the Register of Deeds position, stick it up here, eliminate start, limit year 1, year 2, put her salary where she is now, keep year 3 and year 4, so it's on the pay scale. That would guarantee you that you get 2 more years of steps.
Okay, help me with this now, because we have a motion and amendment and now administrator modification.
No, I'm actually saying the same thing. I think we're saying the same thing here. I'm just trying to clarify it.
Okay, good.
What we discussed with finance was we would put her at this wage, but by 24,
Right.
in her
Yeah.
term, she would be.
Yeah, I think we're all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think from a visual standpoint, we simply take the register deeds, you approve all of the salaries as for the elected officials. You take the register deeds, create a separate line where she is currently, put in there that position will get a step increase, the year 3 increase and a year 4 increase. If you adjust the budget across the board for everyone, these are modified every year anyway with the new dollar amounts. If you go with the 3.25, all these will be adjusted by 3.25. So I think you're all saying the same thing. So I think you're all saying is you want to adjust her salary to this amount now, but you want to guarantee year 3 and year 4 steps. And we can do that.
Are we ready to vote?
Right?
That's what was discussed in
Yeah. I'm saying, I think we're all saying.
All those in support of the amended motion? Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All those in support of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, then let's talk about the undersheriff. You have a salary agreement that Mr. Stoker developed. That position, I pass it out here shortly. And Mr. Kiesel said he would abide by this. And so basically what it is, it's a legal document that says that based on what recently was discovered, he's entitled to $5,095.86 in retroactive pay. However, if he signs this 5,000 some dollars does not become part of the salary for 2022, which means it is not included in future year salary. And also on the pay scale, you see there's adjustment here for the undersheriff to be at 82,388.54, which is where the former undersheriff would have been if he stayed. So if you approve the pay scale for the undersheriff and approve the salary agreement with undersheriff, I think we'll be in compliance.
Okay,
Mr. Butler.
point of clarification, we did just approve the undersheriff, correct?
Well, he's not elected official, he's second man, so I just want to clarify that we,
Okay, but he was on the non-union wage,
Yes.
so we just approved. Is that enough, or should we have a separate motion? Separate motion?
yeah, I
You
would
make
say
a
just
motion?
to make
Okay.
sure there's no misunderstanding.
I would move that the Board of Commissioners move the undersheriff position to the salary of $82,388.54.
Support.
Discussion? Yes.
Per advice of our attorney. Per advice of our attorney.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Ready to vote? All those in support?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Then I suggest you salary. agreement.
Yes, I would move that the Board of Commissioners approve the salary agreement entered into the 17th day of May, 2022, between Leelanau County Board of Commissioners and James Kiesel.
Second.
As presented.
Discussion? All those in support?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. You're making progress here. If you look at the chief deputy treasurer and the chief deputy register of deeds, they're on this sheet. And this is a recommendation that was made by the committee and also last week to change those from hourly positions to salary at the amount of $56,941. That's the same for the register of deeds and the chief deputy register of deeds and the chief deputy treasurer.
Commissioner Butler.
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the chief deputy treasurer and chief deputy register of deeds salary to be set at $56,941 effective May 18th, 2022, with steps eliminated immediately.
What? Any second? Any discussion? All those in support, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, the chief deputy clerk, there also is a salary agreement because there was a interim chief deputy clerk for a short amount of time, and that was Allison Middleton. So we have this agreement there with Ms. Middleton, and basically the same logic and rationale and legal opinion why Mr. Kiesel was entitled to retroactive pay. And this amount is $660.52. It covers the amount of time she was serving as a interim chief deputy clerk.
Motion. Commissioner Luther?
I move that this salary agreement that is entered into the 17th day of May 2022 between Leelanau County Board of Commissioners and LC Middleton be approved. Support.
Any discussion? All those in support?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
And then by the advice of our legal counsel, I'm the chief deputy clerk. The salary should be set at $68,051 effective May 24th.
The motion.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Commissioner Rushton?
The motion, does that include eliminating the steps?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in support?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
And the final recommendation that came from the committee and then the full executive is to give administrative assistant Laurel Evans a one-time stipend of $2,000 for her work with the Parks and Recs for the past year of 2021.
Commissioner Luther?
So I move that Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve a $2,000 stipend for work performed in 2021 for the executive assistant Laurel Evans as a one-time lump sum to be paid out in May of 2022 from account number 101-850-756-703-000.
Second. Any discussion?
Only a statement. Ms. Evans has been doing a yeoman's job of handling a separate department of Parks and Recreation, and we appreciate her work. She's been on top of her other duties.
And I might add, we learned this afternoon when she's gone, we have technical problems.
There'll be no more vacations for her
And that's part of the
during my
motion.
tenure.
Yes.
Any discussion? All those in support? Yeah.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Did I get my free breakfast, Mr. Mayor? No.
That could have taken more than 25 minutes.
Mr. Chairman. Just a comment and then I'd like to make a motion. I did not vote for these last time. I voted for these recommendations with the exception of Mr. Fiesel. I voted for them all this time because it's my understanding we can increase, but we can't decrease. And so we're moving forward. But in doing this, my objection last time was not that these folks don't deserve an increase in their pay. It's that there are many others in our working at the county, some of which are department heads that have not had their pay increased. Who are doing also doing an excellent job. And I think it's very unfair that we don't address the entire group. So I'd like to propose that we have a special meeting to talk about wages, personnel, and decide what we want to do to move forward to try to address the inequities that are existing in our department, our county staff and departments throughout. So that would be my motion, that we have a special meeting to discuss personnel and salary and wages and decide how to move forward as a group.
Support.
Any discussion?
As you well know, we were out of compliance with statutory regulations in changing the way we pay these department heads. So this was for us to clean up, you might say, the errors that we have made in the past in regards to the statutory requirement. What you say may be true as far as the other employees. Typically, we visit these things at budget time. And I am not opposed to visit these things once we begin our budget. However, and I said it last week, I believe, or the week before, this board has been spending like we have a money tree in the backyard. And looking at raising salaries and moving in that direction without looking at the county's budget for the next year, I think is a huge mistake. I will not support this special meeting prior to the budget process.
I have heard that comment before, and it always just kind of clangs around in my head, because as I recall, last May, we made a $250,000 a year increase to our budget with no discussion, no study, no nothing. I believe it's imperative that our employees feel that they are treated fairly and equally, and we have some serious deficiencies. We have people who are woefully underpaid, and frankly, I think we could open ourselves up for legal action. So I support, and I think it's very, very important to address these issues ASAP. And I continue to support. I think it's very, very important.
Any other comments, concerns? Ready to vote? All those in support, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-2. Do we work with an administrator, find a date?
Okay, I'll try to find some.
Thank you. We are now down to item number 15 on our agenda, the Leland Dam Authority recommendation, the spillway ladder bid award. Commissioner Soderstrom.
Okay, I move to the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners to award the bid for fabrication and installation of a spillway platform and safety access ladder to RCI of Traverse City in an amount not to exceed $16,000. Funds to come from account number ending in 970.000.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in support, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes 7-0. We are now at the late edition request for commission appointments with change from former chair Bonnie and to Commissioner Rose Bailey. My recommendations are probably okay because I got complaints from all but one. So nobody's totally happy, but I offer you my recommendations for standing committee and for the commission appointments, and changes are highlighted. I think the number of committee assignments remains the same. I believe the same. I appreciate the input I've had, and I would love to have a motion to support these standing committees. Mr. Lauder?
Are you looking to get a motion for them in one motion or separately?
I would take them all together unless somebody wants to pull one off.
Well, I guess I would just have to question why you would be pulling Mr. Robbins off of Beta if he's not going to go to the airport.
I did talk to Commissioner Robbins, and I could let him speak to that. He was interested in the airport authority, and that did not work because of Mr. Bonnick's attendance there. We talked today, and he is going on the code inspection, the building safety, and he's also going on the family coordinating council, which I think he has an interest in.
Yes, I agreed to that today. Commissioner Lopez, I don't have a problem with it at this time.
Then I would move to approve the
Commissioner.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner, thank you. Commissioner appointments, as recommended by our chairman, for the balance of 2022.
Second.
Any further discussion, Commissioner Lautner?
Yes, I do object to you putting yourself on the Board of Health. I've asked to go on the Board of Health for a number of years. A year ago, I didn't get the appointment because Commissioner Robbins was a 4th vote, and he based that on the importance of having both a Democrat and a Republican on that board. Y'all thought it was a great idea, supported that at the time, and fast forward to today, and you're putting yourself along with Patricia Sotis Little on that board. So there will not be any Republican representation on that board at this time.
I respect Commissioner Lautner's feelings. However, she has been on that board for several years. And I sure would love to be on that board, and I know that it's not my turn. So I believe it's important to, while our decision last year may have been a good one, we also have to consider the opportunity for other people to be on the board, and I believe you were on it for several years. So I support Commissioner Russell being on our board.
Commissioner Robbins?
I guess I'm gonna say here, we're never gonna make any of us happy. This is what it is. It's going for about 5 or 6 months, and we're gonna be right back at it. So it's like, instead of sitting here fighting over who's on what board, let's get back to being commissioners and whatever.
Yes, I think Commissioner Lautner made a good point. And I do recall that discussion at that time where it was decided that it was in the best interest of the county as a whole to have party representation on that board. So I would like you to reconsider your decision on this, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions or concerns? I thought about it at length, and I did have a conversation with Commissioner Lautner on Friday about this, and my recommendation stands. Let's vote. All those in support?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
5-2. Thank you. Now, Mr. Administrator, at an update and
Yeah, let me go here. I don't do this very often, but I wrote some comments, so bear with me, and I appreciate getting through all my comments. I'll be glad to answer any questions. About 2 weeks ago, I drove a car back from Florida, and I stopped at the Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia. I'm a history fan. As you know, that's where the Civil War ended, and that's where Grant and Lee met and came up with terms to heal our country. In the room that the actual agreement, there's a plaque on the wall. So quote from Abraham Lincoln from 1861, and it says, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." That was true in 1861, and I think it's true here in 2022 in Leelanau County. As you know, we've been at this for 12 months now. These conflicts, it's been very hard on all the commissioners, because I think you're all good people. It's been hard on our department heads, elected officials. They're all good, honest people. I think everyone's intentions were good, but we can't continue down this path we're on. We constantly have debate on this. It's taken a toll on people. It's time we go forward, have a firm plan, and everyone abide by it. You're gonna have a new administrator coming in, and the last thing you want is this to continue in 2023. And so let me just give you my overview here. I think a sincere, honest effort was made to implement the decision made by the board. I know it's a difficult vote, 4-3, but the board did it. It's in the budget. We did post a finance director job in December. I can honestly state that I was not part of discussions until November, but after the job was posted, It is true that there were some department heads, elected officials, and retirees that were supporting this move to create a finance and department head. I know there's some debate about that, but I did not seek input from people, but after the job was posted, after the budget was approved, people, I think, felt more comfortable speaking up. And I'd say it was split 50-50 internally. There were many people that felt that things should stay the same, but there were also about 50% of people that truly were supporting having a finance and HR. I got some calls from retirees. I know some of you did, probably the same people. I didn't ask who they called, but some of the retirees contact me with their comments about going forward. The finance director was hired in January. That person resigned in April, and there was no ill will on my part. I think we tried to do the best we could, but we're on different pages, and the decision was made to resign. The job was posted once again, and I appreciate you changing the salary last month. It's been now posted for 4 weeks. I have no applicants, not a single applicant applied. Some people have called me interested in the job, but they're choosing not to apply for 4 reasons. One is the salary. For people that are truly chief financial officers at companies or governments, it is below the average, even with a adjusted pay. There's constant rumors internally and externally about the board rescinding the positions. So that has caused an issue. Some people were concerned that there'll be a new administrator who may want to restructure, and no job security based on all the controversy. People are very comfortable applying for a position with all the rumors out there and whether this job's going to continue or not. And whether this can be a different board or whether this board's going to change the structure. I think that's the main reason people were not applying. I think the salary was maybe below the average, but it's a very competitive salary for Leelanau County, especially when you put the fringe benefits on it. But the situation is we have 0 applicants for that position after a month. As you know, you probably saw, we ran not just classified ads, we ran some fairly large ads on the Leelanau Enterprise, the Record Eagle. It's on the Michigan Association of Counties webpage. It's on numerous job search. It's on our webpage. And like I said, I've got phone calls, but not a single applicants. Normally at the end of May, that we're almost there, we start the budget process for 2023. And we ended up in September and then voted in October. At this point, I'm not sure we can accomplish that with no finance. We have an interim finance director, but she also is our HR. And I'll talk about that later. And it's difficult to juggle both jobs. And there may be more personnel changes coming up also in that area. But normally we have started the process in May. We put the books together. And when I say we, the books truly have been put together by the clerk and the chief deputy clerk. As you know, that's a big effort, and the books are always done and passed out in June. It's really not realistic to expect our interim finance director, who also serves as HR, or the 2 accounting people to take on that task. They have not done it in the past. Once again, I think everyone's working hard, trying to make the best of a difficult situation, but I can't guarantee we can get the budget process done on time if we're going to stick with the same schedule. I was asked to get a legal opinion about the October budget deadline date. And I did talk to Mr. Stoker this morning because I was asked about it last night. There is an outdated state statute that says county boards must approve their budgets in October. That was based prior to summer taxes. Because one time, as you most of remember, you only got tax bills once a year. And so that was in December. So obviously county boards had to set the budget and set the millage rate so the taxes could go out by the townships in November. And then they were due in December through February. So there is an outdated statute on the books about that. However, many counties do their budget in November and December. The only firm legal deadline is the board must have approved budget by December 31st. So we have always followed the October schedule. I think there's some advantages to it, but other counties do it differently. It's, you probably remember last year, Grand Traverse County did not pass the budget till I think the last week of December. They usually start the process when we complete the process, and it's good to have it done. But realistically, at this point, even if the best finance director in the world applied tomorrow, by the time they came on board, got trained and so forth, it'd be very difficult. A question was asked about outsourcing for the finance. Is it legal? Yes, it's legal. Do other counties do it? Some do. It's quite expensive, but it can be done. Question was asked why we did not explore that, why I didn't explore that. The board has never talked about outsourcing that. So if you wish to do that, that's perfectly legal. You have that option, but we have never talked about it, so I have never followed that path. So at this point, if you truly want the budget done in the same process, I think the only option right now is ask the clerk and the chief deputy clerk if they wish to take on the duties of developing a budget for 2023. And at that point, at the end of that process, you'll hopefully have a new administrator on board, and you can make a decision how to go forward for 2023 beyond that point. And I don't know if they would even say yes. So that's a whole different topic. But if you truly want the budget done and follow the same format in the past, the only option I see at this point is to ask the clerk and the chief deputy clerk to take on those duties for this year. In terms of human resources, the job was posted. We selected 7 candidates to interview. 5 of those were external. All of them were through. And the reasons were the salary, which is one factor, rumors of the board making a decision to revert it back, and that tied in the lack of security. When we called them, we told them what the salary was up front. I didn't want to interview people and then get in a situation where we could not offer that, or they thought it was going to be paid one amount, another amount. So we specifically told them what the salary was. When they said no, we followed up and asked them why. And like I said, the reason was the salary, constant rumors, constant articles in the Leelanau Enterprise, and just a lack of security, not knowing if a new board's going to come and make a change. And so we did have internal candidates. I made a decision. That person started May 9th. I can tell you the support that this person has received internally has been positive. I'd say at least half the people that our elected officials, department heads came to me endorsing her application. It's been a challenge for her. It's been a challenge all of us because there is this unknown factor, what's going to happen about the transition of duties and responsibilities. And that's been very hard for everyone. And that's hard for the clerk, hard for the chief deputy clerk. It's been a challenge for the HR. Does she have all the skills at this point? No. Can she learn them? Yes. In a normal period, there would be a transition plan in place and people would work together for that person to acquire the skills. I still am optimistic that can happen. Lots of rumors since May 3rd on how this is going forward with the recall. It's been a challenge internally, and it just has to stop. It's taken a toll on our employees, on our department heads. It's taken a toll on elected officials. It's taken a toll on all of you too. And it's just not fair. And you definitely have to stop this before you pick a new administrator. You don't want to get into a new administrator and have this constantly going on. I am perfectly willing to proceed with the HR position. I want to come back to the board in June with a firm transition plan that will spell out detail how we'll make this transition by December 31st. Some functions can take place sooner versus later, but I'm hoping to work with the clerk and myself and the new HR director to come up with a firm plan that I'd like to present to the board in June on how we're going to proceed going forward. But like I said, it just has been very difficult for everyone. And I'm sure it's difficult for all of you because you're getting calls too, probably from both sides of the political spectrum on how to proceed. And that's difficult, but like I said, it's been 12 months and it's been a challenge. Unless there's some action taken by board on HR, I'm gonna try to develop a plan by our June meeting on a firm transition plan and how we're going to proceed from June till December 31st to make a full transition of HR functions. And I guess my only last comments would be another quote from Abraham Lincoln. I think it was from his 1865 inauguration, that I'm begging you to appeal to the better angels of your nature. And everyone to appeal to the better angels. There's been a lot of hurt feelings. There've been comments made that are regretful. We've had people that have been friends for years that unfortunately those friendships are strained. And we just have to move forward. So on HR, unless there's action, I'm planning to proceed. The only way I can see getting budget done on time, if you wish to have it done by October, is to ask for assistance from the clerk and the chief deputy clerk. If that's not what you want to do, you should tell me today. And we need to come up with other plans, because we can't drag this on week after week, month after month. It's just too hard on everyone, including myself. This has not been fun.
I saw Commissioner Rushton's hand and then Commissioner Alvarez.
Actually, I had it up really early.
I think he's recognized me. Thank you, Commissioner Alquire. Okay, Alquire, I'm sorry, I said it wrong.
Do you have a comment?
If you please. Mr. Janik, in your letter to the board in December of 2011.
Can you speak up, please?
Mr. Janik, your letter to the board, December 2011. On the second page, you made comment here, a bullet point, if I may add, that you completed several budget restructuring plans and currently have financial responsibility for $11 million budget. You also stated, if I may, in your resume that you had budget leadership under difficult economic conditions, implementing staff reductions, yet maintained high academic performance. So I commend you on that.
It was a
This tells
challenge.
me that you do have some budget experience, that you're not naive to the process. Now, I understand with all your other job duties, for you to sit and do a budget for the board is probably not feasible. However, as you well know, there are agencies out there. For one, it could be our auditing firm that could assist us with a budget. And a budget is just a guess of the expenses for the next year. Anybody can put a budget together. Maybe not as good as it has been in the past, but if we simply take last year's budget, you know the program, tweak it, bring it forward. And the reason I say that, this board continually changes the budget. Have you sought any outside independent help from either our auditing firm or another firm to assist you with the budget process?
My only dialogue was when the former finance director resigned, saying if it's feasible and if that is a common occurrence throughout the state. It's not. Is it feasible? Yes. Are there firms that can do it? Yes. Is it common? No. Is it expensive? Yes.
It may be.
Yeah.
However, at this point, in light of the information we've received today, we don't know the outcome of the investigation that is taking place. And I would not recommend turning our finances back over to a department that's under investigation. That's number one. It's irresponsible of this board. I think the board spoke when they asked for an HR and a finance department for good reason. And in your correspondence to the board on April 18th, you stated, while this entire process has been stressful and emotional for some people, I do believe that it is in the best interest, long-term interest of the county once the two positions are filled and completely implemented.
Mhm.
Now, in our discussion today, in regards to looking for an administrator, Matt McCauley indicated that, one, the wages we were proposing were too low. You made the comment that between last year and this year, wages went through the roof. So if we think we're gonna revisit everybody's pay scale here, and if we think we can hire new with what we've offered, maybe we need to look at that. But I agree with you. This has got to be straightened out. And if we go back to the same old, we're gonna have the same old problem in this building with every one of these departments. So this board can do what it wants to do, but you're making a huge mistake if you do want to keep your employees.
Commissioner Hogg.
Can I just comment on
Yes.
some? That letter was when I applied for the job here, so I want to make sure to do that. And yes, when I was in Charlevoix Public Schools during the recession of 2008, I had to cut 2.4 million from the budget. I took a lot of heat from that. We had to restructure labor contracts. I laid off 1 year, 14 teachers in 1 year. I had to lay off cooks. I had to lay off bus drivers. It was awful. Fortunately, I had a great finance. I've been blessed that everywhere I worked, I've had great finance directors, which is a real gift. But yes, that was an awful situation. I did what I thought was right. It was very difficult. I got a lot of criticism for it from the unions and employees, but at the end, whether it was good or bad, I was vindicated because everything I predicted was going to happen did happen. And by making those difficult cuts, I think I saved the district from going into bankruptcy. So it was a very difficult time. So we're not there. If the board wishes to do that, that's fine. I just need some guidance. We can't go on, and our employees are looking for guidance. We have to stop this internal bickering and this external bickering. And I think you're all tired of getting phone calls also. And so on the HR, I'm going forward unless the board changes something. I'm going forward with the plan. I will come up with a restructuring or a transition plan by the June meeting that will get us through the end of the year. On finance, the option I'm recommending is going back to them. If you choose not to do that, if you give me direction, I will follow through on that, but I just need to know how we're gonna go forward.
And I'll give it to Commissioner Hogg. My understanding of what you're saying is what you're recommending is going forward. You do not need action tonight.
On the finance, I do.
But you do not need action on HR tonight.
No, unless you decide to make a change. I think I made it clear. We have an HR department. I am willing to come up with a plan, hopefully with assistance from the clerk and maybe the chief deputy clerk, to have a plan to transition all those functions and duties by December 31st. Some may take sooner, some may take later.
I did call on Commissioner Hogg.
I would move that the functions of finance as originally performed by the clerk's office be returned to the clerk's office as they were originally being performed. And the county administrator is directed to work with the county clerk to develop a transition plan in writing to train and gradually transfer the HR functions currently administered by the administrator and the clerk to the HR director to be completed by year's end. And I think that addresses your.
Yeah, you can, but I basically said the same thing about HR, so that's you don't need to take any action on HR unless you want to change it. I told you what I was gonna plan on doing, and if there's no action on that, then I'm just gonna go forward with it.
Can I speak to that? Or no, we don't
You
have.
don't
to.
have a second.
I'll second.
Yes, you may speak to that.
And I think what you're saying is wise about the HR position. We have hired someone. She's looking forward to that position. For the stability of our employees. employees and acknowledge that we're going to honor what they chose to do, that hired to do. I support the training, but we need to do the training and take the time for the transition that we didn't do before. So I'm glad that you're going to come up with a plan. And we need to give her time to absorb those as she is trained.
Well, according to my plan, that'd give us 7 months.
I also am suggesting that we return the functions of the budget and the finances to the people who know how to do this work for the time being. They've done an excellent, excellent job in the past. They know this material, and for the good of the county, for the good of all of our employees, I believe this would ensure our stability.
The point of order, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we need a motion, please.
I move that the
No,
functions.
I'm sorry. By board rules, I believe we are all supposed to have a copy of the motion in front of us. Am I correct?
We have lots of motions that we don't all have in it before us.
Do you have it in writing?
I do.
Or we need a copy of it, please. There you go.
I have 4.
I can look on here.
You can pass those down.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yeah, this is a sad day. It's a year that I didn't think was gonna be like this. I don't know where to start, whether I'm gonna start, and am I gonna make too many people happy tonight? We did pass this back in October 12th. Kind of reminds me of the early childhood development, how we fought over that before I came on this board. Where does it ever end, you know? Biggest thing you gotta look at is what's happened in the last 72 hours. There's an investigation going on, and, you know, we put this, I mean, hopefully it's unfounded, but we don't know. And what's probably gonna think that we give something back to someone that's under investigation, and we find out 2 weeks from now, they're charged with a criminal offense. We're not gonna look good. This thing should just stay still for right now. Work our way through it.
Okay.
Anyone can make
Oh,
an
you
allegation.
weren't done, Commissioner?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
No.
Please.
You know, I just learned 2 hours ago, I just keep hearing stuff, or people calling me, employees, department heads, it just never ends. So I know something's going on in this building, but 2 hours ago, I just got a call that some of the people in this room know about. This alleged allegation was changed last night. And it was fixed, what I've been told by some people in this building. And it'd be one thing if this has only been 30 days, but it's been a year and a half. And it's almost like robbing the bank, and then you get caught and you want to put the money back in the bank. And so, I mean, you know, we just need to let the authorities do their job. It's no different than a year ago, when people went after me for open meeting violation. I had to sit through it, take the lumps and see where it goes. And that's what we need to do here. And go from there.
Commissioner Ogden?
You know, anyone can make an allegation. There's no certification at that point that it's correct. I believe in the United States, one is innocent until proven guilty. So to insinuate that someone cannot do a job just because someone else wants to make an allegation is wrong. And I'm embarrassed that that has happened in this county. I'm embarrassed that it's happened the way it has. I'm appalled at the treatment of our employees. And I absolutely believe in this country you are innocent until proven guilty. Anyone can make an allegation.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Tricia?
This is more than troubling. It is incredibly unprofessional to take someone who's worked so hard for the county for all these years and has done so much for this county and to tarnish, blemish, like really call into question her reputation based on something. Nobody knows what it is exactly. It was something that should have, by the treasurer, walked down the hall and said, hey, I ran across this, what is it? And given the person a chance to explain, but it wasn't handled that way. It was presented to our administrator as a verbal complaint. And from there, it further went as an investigation. Again, the clerk was totally uninformed that there was even a problem, let alone what the problem was. Our administrator did inform her, and she has all of the records collected that can indicate she did nothing wrong. And yet here we are talking about denying her the opportunity to work on a budget for us, which is a whole lot of work, for something that was stripped from her with no rationale for doing that. But here we are again, asking her to pick it up and take it on. And yet this allegation has since gone to the prosecuting attorney who made a mistake and forwarded on to the state police, who have forwarded on to the attorney general to see if there's any crime. The crime is in the way this has been handled. I am appalled, embarrassed, humiliated, but that isn't even half what I'm sure our clerk is feeling at this moment in time. And for now it to come out like this in this meeting, shame is not the sufficient word. It is unprofessional and inexcusable. And I will back up now and say I am calling the motion.
I was holding off on all comments until I could make a comment. I'd ask you to withdraw your.
All right, I'll withdraw for one more comment.
Well, I too am uncomfortable with the way this is handled, and I think this is not the way a well-functioning board operates. I think there's a big difference between somebody asking a question and a statement about criminal investigation. I talked to the administrator before this meeting, and we can't control what's said in the audience, and we can't control what individual commissioners say, but I think it's inappropriate to have the discussion we've had tonight. I think it's, speaking of crime, criminal the way she's been treated. And as chair, I'm going to ask for a 5-minute recess. Thank you.
Hi, I'm back. I guess taking a break right now.
We're in recess.
You're in recess.
5 minutes,
5 minutes.
not even.
I was hoping to just have one question about the jail situation with the Kalkaska inmates coming here. I was hoping to talk to the sheriff, but that did not work out. So I was
Right.
wondering if anyone.
You would talk to either the administrator or the chair.
Okay.
And they'll be back.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I'm sorry. She doesn't get it, but she will. You choose to talk to her now or talk to her later.
Hi, I'm back. I was just hoping to talk to you, get a quick little camera interview. I don't have to give time right now this recess. I have one question about the jail situation with the Kalkaska inmates coming here.
But maybe I can help you. Yeah.
So I really just need I have one question
Yeah.
about the inmates coming here.
Yeah, what's the question? I'll see if I can help.
Do we have enough staff here to handle that?
Yes, yes.
Can I get you saying that on camera really quick?
Well, it depends how much, it's up, because we're in the middle of a meeting here.
Right.
How much time we have?
I think the administrator needs to stay here for
Yeah,
this
yeah.
piece of it.
Okay.
We're almost at the end of the meeting.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
figure out that.
If you just want to, the answer is yes, we have enough staff.
Okay, I'm sorry, what?
We need the clerk, Patricia, can you?
I think she's coming.
Thank you. I talked to Mr. Janet. I'm very uncomfortable with the conversation that would you wait until I'm finished with my statement before waving that in front of me? I'm very uncomfortable with the conversation about personnel issues and insinuations. And I think I must ask you to focus on the topic at hand. We have a motion on the floor that I think is consistent with what the administrator said he was going to do. I personally don't think we need to go forward with that because that's exactly what he said he wanted to do. But I leave that up to this group. There is a motion on the table. But I would ask you not to talk about legal problems because we will have legal problems if we do that at this table. Commissioner Rushton.
My question was, are we allowed to go in recess when there's a motion on the floor?
My understanding is the chair can ask for recess at any time that he needs clarification on a rule or.
But you didn't state that when you took a recess, so That,
My understanding is the chair can take a recess when the chair needs to take a recess. That's my understanding. I will check on that and we'll get some clarification.
thank you.
I believe the question was called.
You need
And
two
I
people to
believe
call
there
the
was
question.
Comments
Need two
after
people.
that, and I have had my hand up to respond to that.
The question has been called.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, you need two people to call the question. Debate continues until the second person calls the question.
Okay, you may talk and then we will call the question. Here's the Russian, because her hand was up.
Yes. I'm trying to frame my question. So it is in regards to whether or not the allegation is, doesn't matter the outcome of the allegation. At the present time, that department or that particular person or both is under an investigation. So for this board to return finance to a department that is under investigation is not prudent on the part of this board. Commissioner Robbins has made the statement that whether it's true or not, it's not up to us. It's going to be investigated. It is what is up to us is protecting the tax dollars that come into this county that the people send here for us to allocate. Does that make any sense to you? We're responsible for the people's money. And when this board decides to hand this over to a department that is in question today, in my opinion, is irresponsible. I suggest that we wait for the outcome to see or to make that motion.
The question has been called. I think it's time to vote.
Per board rules, is there not an opportunity for every commissioner to speak before the question is being called?
My understanding, and I'll ask for.
Whenever two commissioners call a question, you have to vote on whether you want to call the question or not.
I'm calling the question. All those in support of calling the question, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
Aye.
we now have a motion on the floor that Commissioner O'Gara made. I'd ask the clerk to read it. I think it's consistent with what.
What's the motion to call the question 5-2? I will read it. The motion by Alguier was to move the functions of finance as originally performed by the clerk's office be returned to the clerk's office as they were originally being performed, and the county administrator is directed to work with the county clerk to develop a transition plan in writing to train and gradually transfer the HR functions currently administered by the administrator and the clerk to the HR director to be completed by year's end.
Just a clarification, are you saying transfer on a temporary basis or on a full-time permanent basis?
Finance?
Yes. I don't believe your motion addresses that part.
Yeah, I'm not sure it needs to. But it needs to, we need this.
Out of respect, we need clarification. Is this temporary? I mean, if it passes, is this a temporary move or a full-time move?
How about if we, had to be determined by a new administrator?
I have to ask about a motion to reconsider our board rules I'm new at this. But I believe this would have to be a motion to reconsider before we vote on the original motion.
Can I make a recommendation? Because no matter how this comes out, no one's gonna be happy. Emotions are high. That's a good question. The legal investigation, legislation, that's a good question. No matter how you do it, you're gonna get the cloud. The option of outsourcing, it's a whole thing. We normally have started the budget process in the May, finish in October. With all the emotions behind everything is, I know there's a motion. On the HR, I'm going forward with the HR, that's a moot point. I just respectfully ask that we wait a month, see where the investigation is. Knowing we're not gonna start the budget process in the May. Normally you have your budget meetings in July. You're gonna be busy anyway. If you look at the schedule you adopted for the administrative search, you're gonna have a lot of special meetings anyway. We could just push the budget process back at least a month. So instead of adopting the budget in October, you could do it in November. There are no legal issues with that. I think emotions are very high right now. No matter how this vote comes out, and I don't know how you're gonna vote, it's gonna cause more friction. If you just wait a month, let's see what happens with this investigation. I will talk to Mr. Hubble, see where we are with the investigation and what kind of timeline they're on. I have no idea what kind of timeline. As you know, the last time we tried to get an attorney general's opinion on something, it was 18 months and we never did get an answer with the Iron Man. As you know, just from the alleged open meetings violation, that took what, 3 months? So it went on, yeah.
Would you be willing to?
I'm just asking respectfully just to put everything on hold for a month.
You made the motion, would you be willing to pull it? Would it be okay with the second and honor the administrator's recommendation and sit on this for a month?
A question. So what changes in a month? Yes, emotions may calm down, although I don't think emotions are really an issue here as much. But if in a month there's nothing, does it change the situation? Where
Well,
people think it shouldn't be placed and people.
I
think that
honestly,
it
yeah,
is?
I'm talking about, I honestly know how this alleged investigation will continue, because at this point it's alleged, so I want to make sure I use that word carefully.
Yes.
Where it is now, and I don't want to go into details, the Attorney General was asked to clarify whether there was any illegal activities. Depending on what the Attorney General's office decides, will determine who does the investigation at what level and who will do it. I don't want to go into specifics. Hopefully we can get that clarified in a month. But if you do that, you know that the budget process is going to be delayed at least a month.
Commissioner O'Hara, and then Commissioner Lawton.
I would like to comment on a statement that was made. Our clerk has handled our finances in this county since, I believe, since the 90s. The audits have been perfect.
Sorry, there was a question. If you want to continue, I suggest you vote the motion down. You can make another motion. You can do whatever you want. But the question was called and you need to abide by that.
So we have a motion on the floor. Would you read it one more time, Clerk?
Motion by Algar that the functions of finance as originally performed by the clerk's office be returned to the clerk's office as they were originally being performed. And the county administrator is directed to work with the county clerk to develop a transition plan in writing to train and gradually transfer the HR functions currently administered by the administrator and the clerk to the HR director to be completed by year's end.
That is a motion, but it doesn't answer my question about reconsideration. And I believe, part of the chair's responsibility is Robert's Rules of Order and our board rules.
And that's another reason I respectfully ask you to vote this motion down, just so we can have a fresh start.
I don't think we have to
Let's vote
vote
on
it
it.
down. I think we can.
Well,
Withdraw.
no one has withdrawn it, so there was a question called, so if the person the question's been called already, so by your board rules, the chairman makes a decision, anyone can question that, then you have a vote of the full board on decision made by the chairman.
So if we withdraw,
There's only one person that can withdraw, and we can't talk about it. You either have to withdraw or we vote on the motion and vote it up or down. I believe that's what we have to do.
So I'm willing to withdraw for 1 month.
Is the second willing to withdraw?
No.
I ask for a vote of the motion. All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails 3-4.
Mr. Chairman, I move to set aside make a motion to set aside our rules of order now. I would second.
Discussion?
I think our administrator has brought up a very valid point, and I do believe it would be a really good idea to just take a little breather on this. I didn't get an opportunity to speak earlier to the motion. I'll look into that. I'm not quite sure if that was quite appropriate or not. But you could be correct. I understand what you're saying about our budget. I understand our need to go forward. I do understand we have the expert of our budget, and I know that she enjoys doing our budget. So we have some different ways to go here. I think we can work together. I think we can move forward on this. And I hope I'm not giving out confidences with the clerk, but in speaking with the clerk a month ago, she wasn't opposed to the splitting of the finance department as much as the process that was used. So, or how it came down the pike, whatever you want to call it. So with the support of staff, I think we could move forward and relieve those duties from our clerk successfully. I've stated publicly several times my support for the splitting of the departments is that I think it's terribly unfair to have one person shoulder 3 departments. While shouldering 3 departments, the county accumulated overtime because it's just too much for one department to handle. Which just obviously led to one thing to right on down the pike to another. So that's why I did support this motion. I think we can work together. I think we can develop our budget for 2023 if the clerk and Jen are willing to help us do that. Continue with HR. Obviously, all the support we're going to need to move forward with the HR and have a rational conversation about how to move forward, splitting the finance so that the clerk can concentrate on the clerk and the courts and the elections and everything that's gotten so complicated over the years. You know, to have finance concentrate on finances and all the reporting and everything else that's gotten so complicated over the years, and have HR concentrate on HR. And, these motions that we had to do with salaries. If we'd had an HR department, would we have known that a couple years ago and not be placed in the position we are tonight? I don't know. I would like to believe so. I'm not quite sure. Should our attorney have informed us that our wage scale wasn't correct? I don't know. But I just think we can work together and do this. I think that I believe in that. And I think that the 1 month break is a really good idea. I think it's pretty clear where everybody's going to stand again. And I'd like to see that be a little bit easier on everybody.
Commissioner Sills Little, and then the chair would like to speak, and then Commissioner Rushton.
Our administrator has done a great job. and I respect him very much. And it was difficult for me to go against a recommendation of his, because we worked together incredibly well for 7 years. And will continue to do so. The reason I requested the set aside and would reinstate the motion is exactly what Commissioner Lautner just alluded to. She doesn't feel that the finance function should be in the clerk's office. So we're not talking about a 1 month to consider things. Nothing is going to change in 1 month, unfortunately. I would love to think that it would. When Commissioner Robbins had the Open Meetings Act potential violation, he wasn't recused from voting on things. He still functioned as a commissioner, attending committees, doing his job as a commissioner. So I think Commissioner Algar made a very good comment when she said, in this country, we're innocent until we're proven guilty. And when something is alleged, it's not even, there's nothing in writing that came forward until it hit the prosecuting attorney's office. So I think in order to settle this and move forward, now I don't know if the clerk wants to take this back. I wouldn't blame her if she said no, because it's a whole lot of work. And particularly since she lost control of it for a period of time. It's a matter of regearing, regrouping, and then helping forward. I think that it is one way to settle things and move forward. We're not changing what's involved with working to get the clerk and the county administrator working together on HR. That continues. That was the will of the board, and it's continuing to be so. And Commissioner Lautner, you may have been right. If we had an HR person, perhaps we would have had earlier notice or been aware, although our attorney did say we had until the end of the year to solve this problem. It didn't have to be done right away. But we are where we are, and I think it's important to move forward and to at least have a motion to settle this tonight so that we aren't continuing, because in a month, I can't see that anything is going to change. It's going to be more of the same for the next month. We've been going through all of this up until this point, and it's hurtful and painful all the way around.
Thank you. I would like to make a comment. I was planning tonight to support a recommendation that the administrator made. I've had several conversations with the administrator over the 7 years I've been a commissioner about it. We need to hear recommendations from the administrator, and I came prepared to support a recommendation. His recommendation was to take a month. 11 weeks ago, I said, no matter what happens on May 3, I'm not going to reverse that our board or commission decision because of the vote on May 3. And I meant that. That was my commitment. I could not vote for this motion today unless the administrator recommended to go forward with this. And he has asked for time. And I'm prepared to give him the time he needs. Commissioner Rushton.
I would like to make a motion to instruct the administrator to utilize the services available internally.
Point of order, I think we have a motion on the floor. I moved to set aside, and I think.
Okay.
Any other conversations about move to set aside? Any?
Explain this, because I'm lost. So what are we doing now?
We're setting aside our rules.
Yeah, let me try to explain the best I can. We have, every year, the board sets the board rules. It's how you operate.
Right.
In there, and this becomes another question that I don't have the answer is, anytime there's a reconsideration of a motion beyond 1 month, it takes a motion to reconsider, and that needs a 2/3 majority or a 5-2 vote, at least 5-2. The question brought up because I knew this may come up. Several people ask, you did approve the board rules in a motion. So that's to set aside the board rules. Do you need a 5-2 vote to set aside the board rules? because you did pass a motion on the board rules. Your board rule says any motions or resolutions need to be considered for reconsideration, needs a 2/3 majority. I don't know a legal answer to that. That question just surfaced this afternoon. If you're gonna set aside your board rules, is it treated like every other motion? I believe in January, you made a motion to approve your board rules. It's beyond the 30 days. I could argue that you need 2/3 majority to reconsider those board rules. I don't know if that's legally the case with board rules or not. I honestly don't know. This issue just surfaced today, but which is another reason why I think we need 30 days, to be honest with you. There's so many issues out there. You may need a straight majority to set aside your board rules. I don't know, but that was a motion that was passed. And if that's the case, like if you're gonna treat this like every other motion, then you need a motion to reconsider by 2/3. And I honestly don't have an answer to that.
Patricia, so would you change your motion to move to postpone until the June meeting?
If we get a ruling on, it's my understanding that it's a simple majority to set aside the rules. However,
This
I think
new,
we ought to be sure of what we're doing,
Yeah.
so that we're not having to redo again or undo what we've done. So I will set this aside. We'll give the administrator the 30 days he's asking for.
I'll get a legal opinion on that.
And also, I would ask that, I think Commissioner Rushton is about to make a motion to direct the administrator to engage a private entity to do the budget.
You don't know what I'm gonna say.
Well, you started to say it. It's a pretty easy guess. But
Please.
my apologies, that was rude. I am sorry. I normally don't do that kind of thing. So yes, I will set that aside.
I believe it's you and then you, Mr. Evans.
My motion is to move to instruct the administrator to utilize the services available internally to seek independent accounting assistance if you feel that's necessary to prepare the 2023 budget timely while continuing to search for a finance director. So that will do a couple things. It'll allow you to move forward. It'll allow you to utilize the services within the county building. I don't care which department you have utilized.
Could we get a second to your motion before you vote? Then you can speak first.
I'll support because I want to hear
Okay.
what you have to say.
You can utilize the services of the treasurer, the clerk, whatever department is going to assist you in putting together the budget. To find an independent accounting firm, whether it be the one that does our audit or another accounting firm, and prepare the 2023 budget to have that completed timely as required by law.
Yes.
I believe that what we have been asked to do is put this issue aside for 1 month. And I believe we need to honor that, to just decide we're gonna put together a budget willy-nilly, trying to scrap it together. I believe it's irresponsible. We've been asked to wait a month.
We've been asked.
And while I reluctantly agree to that, I believe that is appropriate, but it's not appropriate to just kind of scrap a budget together. This is a very detailed, difficult process, and it needs to be accurate.
What I would like to say at this point, I just don't want to see the dust settle. Emotions are high. Chairman Wetzel and Mr. Janet and I have had some conversations last week, and I'd like to take a 30-day break. in the interim of that 30-day break, I'd like to see us move a little, expedite the HR a little quicker if we have to. Get that moving. In the meantime, in 30 days, hopefully this investigation, just like my open meeting violation, goes nowhere. And we can come back here and start talking about the budget for 23.
Commissioner Lautner.
I don't want anyone to believe that what Commissioner Rushton was proposing would be willy-nilly or scrapping something together. That is not how I understood what was proposed. However, I supported the motion to hear what it was, and obviously we don't have that motion in front of us, but I'm not going to support the motion because while I feel it could be very prudent and work very well, especially using in-house resources, I agree with Commissioner Robbins. Let's let the dust settle and let's move. Let's give this 30 days and get our ducks in a row. Move forward.
You ready to vote on the motion on the floor?
Mr. Chairman, I will withdraw my motion.
Thank you. We're now at late edition number 18, the Points broadband contract.
All right, this is some positive news. You instructed me several months ago to develop a contract with Points Communication for broadband. It was a major challenge because truly this is a unique partnership that our law firm has never dealt with in the past. I think the best thing you did was approve Chris Shire as our consultant. He has done a yeoman job. I don't think he quite understood he was going to be a legal expert, but I worked with him carefully along with Bob Townsend at our law firm. And it really was a very unique project. What you have is, I can't tell you how many versions we've gone through, drafts. But I'm optimistic that what you have here, and today I'm not asking you to vote for it. I just got this last night. I want you to at least have a copy of it. And at some point, if we have special meetings, which we will, like to prove this, but I'm pretty confident that this is not just our version. Our attorney has talked to the representative from Points Communication. And I want to present it to you unless I thought both sides are ready to enter into this agreement. I'm not going to speak on behalf of Points Communication or their attorney, but I feel comfortable that we have a contract that suits our needs. And I think there has been positive dialogue between the representatives from Points, our consultant, myself, our legal counsel. We're all working together. And I think we made a lot of progress. So it'd be nice to end the meeting on a high note and say, I'm optimistic. We have a contract here. I just got it last night, so I just brought an agenda so you have a chance to look at it. And whenever we do have a special meeting, I'd like to put that on the agenda and hopefully you can approve it because I believe Points is ready to start the work as soon as we have a signed contract.
I want to thank our chairman for the work that you've done on this. I know this has not been an easy process, and thank you very much for staying on top of everything and helping to move everything forward when it could have easily gotten bogged down a bit. So do we need a motion to put it on?
No, I just wanted you to
Okay.
know that it's a big step forward.
So,
We have been ahead of the curve of virtually every county in the state for our ARPA funding. And this broadband, I just got an email late afternoon from somebody that wants to do a national story about this. What's that?
I said, oh, wow.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear
Very
you.
late.
Somebody's, but so it's great that we were able to work together. We had a contract. It really was a major task. And Chris really has done. I thought he was the right person, but I would second that 10 times over based on the last month of just we've had regular contact between attorney and myself, Points, I'm sure 3 times a week at least that I knew of, and that doesn't mean behind the scenes what Chris was doing the work. So he definitely is earning his money. And I know we would not have had a contract today if it wasn't for that.
I look forward to it being on one of our upcoming May special meetings.
Thank you, Jet, and thank you, Chris. And Patricia's made this her full-time job. Thank you, Patricia. It's time to review of financials.
In late claims, I have one more question for you, and I apologize, that we closed a $347 invoice, and I'm not sure what that was.
Yeah, if she voided it, it should be from the first set, so it would be voided from the meeting last Tuesday.
Yep.
So, if Darcy didn't give you the explanation, then we'd have to look back to what you had in your packet from last week to see what
What was
that
it,
void.
$347?
What is it for?
$372.
For,
It doesn't say.
We took it off of the original claims and accounts. So, yeah, 372.
372.
All right,
Sometimes
let
it
me-
can be as simple as a duplicate.
Yep, that's what Michelle thought it might possibly be, was a duplicate, so, okay. I'm just curious, that was my only question on it.
Any other questions? Any committee reports, recommendations, or resolutions? Any special reports by staff, commissioners, and affiliated agencies?
just that Mr. Wessel and I are meeting with the Grand Traverse County Minister on Friday. I think we know my update about community mental health. We'll report back to you, because this will be a big issue.
Can I ask a question in regards to that? Do they actually have a plan in place yet?
No, what the
Okay.
step is, Mr. Alger, the Grand Traverse County Minister, is working with a special legal counsel to draft the official notice that Grand Traverse County Board has to do. I'm guessing that will happen probably the month of August. That starts the timeline.
You all got a copy of an email from Joni Blamer this week. She sent that to each of us in response to Grand Traverse County's action. I was a little concerned about what she sent to us.
Who is
She is the CEO of Northern Lakes,
Okay,
but it was kind of like she was playing us against Grand Traverse County. So we will talk about that on Friday.
If I could get a copy of that. too, I would.
Any other? You're now at our time for public comments, and please come forward if you'd like to say something to us. Aaron?
Karen Josephus, Bingham Township. Just wanted to respond to your comment that Republicans don't mind spending money. We like to spend money on things that make a difference. So when we're spending $250,000 for the nuts and bolts of what our county needs to do, and making the decision not necessarily because it's the easiest or because it's the cheapest, but because it's the best, that's when we feel it's prudent money spent. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Any commissioner comments? Mr. Adams?
One question I thought of earlier, do these new committees, when are we gonna start? June? I got a beta meeting next week, so do I finish up this month?
Well, in theory, they're effective as soon as you vote on them.
Okay. So
So we will have to notify data of change.
Okay, I'll share.
And I believe, the commissioner, who's taking your place? I'm sorry.
Lois.
All right, I will contact.
Gwen.
Okay, I will contact their director tomorrow, let them know the change.
Okay.
That's a good.
Thank you.
I'd like to note to our wonderful citizens who attended that questions about finance were directed to the chief deputy clerk and the clerk. That's because they know our finances. They're good. No, they've got it cold. Yes, you can make changes in departments and work to improve functions within an organization, but it is done thoughtfully. It is done after talking to staff It is done with planning, and it is done carefully, slowly. It is not done as a late addition when that staff is out of town, surprising everyone. That is how not to do it. So has this been a problem? You bet it has. Because it started off as an insult. I'd like to congratulate our clerk and chief deputy clerk on the exemplary work they have done for so long. And I'm mortified and angry at the way they've been treated. I don't think we should ask them any more finance questions if we're not gonna honor them with this function. But guess what? We need to. Because they're the ones who know. I'm also appalled that allegations are made and made public. And someone's character is maligned with no proof. Again, I believe we live in a country where you are innocent until proven guilty. Anyone can make an allegation. Thank you, Rick, for the work you've done.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments?
I have one, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I do not believe there has ever been any doubt of the expertise of our finances. As a matter of fact, we appointed Jen to finance for that reason. No doubt, I supported it. Green of finances, there's no doubt about it. I was saddened when it didn't work out, make that very clear. What bothers me the most is almost leaving this meeting without this speech ahead of mine, because the speech I heard last week was you, Mr. Wessel, about how we would be respectful to each other, civil, work together. And I keep hearing these things over and over and over again that may have some truth, but are not altogether truthful. So that bothers me greatly and saddens me greatly. And I think, as I said earlier, we can work together to move forward, but only if people stop dividing us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rushton, you had a comment?
I have then, I don't farm and I don't have kids and my lawn's mostly wildflowers, so I get to read a lot. And this week's book is entitled, I Never Thought of It That Way. And I'm going to ask you to listen to 1 minute worth of I Never Thought of It This Way.
I do.
It is written by an author, Monica Guzman. And I plan on giving this to Chad. He'll have it in his office if you're interested in reading it. It's highly recommended in the Wall Street Journal a couple of weeks ago because it deals with the political climate of our country and our churches and our schools and our communities. Building a bridge to the other side isn't easy, but it's also likely that it's not as hard as you think. Take the first step out of your silo, and the gulf you've been afraid to span might look more like a gap and feel more like an invitation. And even when the bridge is as big as you feared, the most important thing to do with the bridge is to keep it, not cross it, because the strength of these bridges lies in people, not ideas. This is not a book about relationships. It's a book about being curious, but I guarantee you that when you are more and more genuinely curious, it will strengthen all the relationships that matter to you, whether they're your relatives, your colleagues, your country, yourself. So here's your mission, dear reader, surprise yourself. Take one step closer to someone who disagrees with you, whether that means spending time with a friend or a relative,
you've been drifting apart from, reading an opinion from an earnest voice on the other side, or sparking a conversation you've been eager and hesitant to have. I challenge all of us to try to cross that bridge. It's a long bridge, but we can do it. Thank you. Any approvals of the financials, any motions? Yes.
I would move to approve transfer number 22-003.
All those in
Oh,
support?
and for the amount of $399,200.
I knew that.
All those in support?
What's the questions for you?
I would move to approve late claims and accounts, $345,555.21.
Support.
All those in support, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And I would move to approve post audit, $3,657,765.51.
Support.
All those in support, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I have a question for you. Did you not read that to us once before?
Did not.
We did not, okay.
Meeting is adjourned.
Here again.
Questions on camera?
Well,
All the pages.
Do you want it over here or do you want over? This one doesn't have sign here stickies.
Propelling and bearing weight,